Well, let's get going. And I don't have the chair's agenda.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't have one.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. So we'll call the meeting to order. And as you notice, I'm back.
I was gonna say, how was your time off?
Recuperating and
Good vacation.
yeah. Well, actually, I just got back from Ecuador.
I saw that. I saw that.
I went to Ecuador to visit Joe and Emily Knapp and their family. They're really good friends of ours, and the kids were born basically at the same age and grew up together, and so they left about 2.5 years ago. If you don't know Joe, he was the he worked for the city of San Diego, and so him and I would travel all over and explain Sandy Net to everyone and kind of go to conferences on that. But the two of us became really good friends. Anyway, so I got to see them in Ecuador. Anyway, but welcome. Why don't we go around and introduce ourselves, because we have a few new members. We have a couple new city councilors on this group, and not maybe everyone knows who they are.
Just one new city council.
But into this group.
Oh, into this group.
You
Oh,
are
that's
as
true.
well as Chris.
Yeah.
But I think everyone here knows who I am. Jeremy Pietzold here was on the city council and economic development board before chairing it. And somehow they elected me back as the chair of that, I guess. Anyways, so hopefully that's you guys aren't oh man, let's listen to him again. But we'll go around the room, and why don't we go around in here? Go ahead, Chris, you can start, and then we'll go around and then we'll hit Chris at the end. We'll be bookended by Chris's.
I'm Chris Jones, the director of the San Diego Area Chamber of Commerce.
Bill Schwartz, I own Boring Brewing Company.
Corey Smallwood, San City Council.
Paul Ray, founded at my club.
And Chris, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Mayton. I'm a new city councilor. I got elected in January or in November for this January. I took over actually Jeremy's seat, so thank you, Jeremy. I've also been on the planning commission for the last 5 years.
Great. Well, the next thing on the agenda item here is approval of the minutes. As you notice, there's a lot of them because we haven't been able to fill a quorum before that. And so we were talking earlier, we don't have to have the exact people that were here during those times. We just need to have the number of that. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes set forth in the packet. Or you'll make a motion?
I'll make a motion, sir.
Well, then I'll second.
You'll second. There's been a motion and a second to approve
We're a team.
the minutes. There you go. Of the following last 3 economic development board meetings. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't here, so.
So what we,
Well, yeah, that's fine. We have a quorum, so we just need a majority of those present.
those are present, okay, that would be good. And I say aye. Any of those opposed? No.
I abstain as well.
Okay,
Okay. So
hearing no opposals, minutes have been approved. We're excited about that.
very excited about this.
Gonna clean the deck off and we'll move forward.
I've been in a few board meetings recently where that has been the case.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So a couple of items. Well, first, any public comments from anybody? Anybody online? Do we have anybody outside of,
We have our consultant, Elliot Weiss, Jordan Wheeler is in the meeting. I don't know if there's any others.
all right, I'm not seeing any other public or for public comments, so we'll move on. Any economic development office updates?
No, we, in the interest of time today, we're going to put that off until the next week.
All
And I'll
right,
have a year-end review meeting for that for 2022, just to give you guys a real quick update on everything that's been built.
I want to welcome everyone back that has been on the board. Appreciate your time and coming and spending that with us. I know it's not a lot of time as far as our meetings go, not like city councilors who meet multiple times a month, meet every other month or so. But thank you for continuing with us. We've had a few people step off, either their term ended and they've elected not to continue, or we've had some people move out of state even, or out of our city or areas of that. Those that have moved out are, it's either gone, I don't even care anymore.
Kurt's
No,
moved.
Kurt has, I think, officially moved to Hawaii. And he'll be a great loss, because I think he really, when he was here in town, always contributed quite a bit and was always able to make it here. But he was spending a lot of time in Hawaii, so. And then our other person that's moved out of town is Ernie Broad. Where did you move
Ernie
to?
moved to Southern Oregon, actually.
Okay.
Moved down to the Rosewood area as well.
Oh, okay. And again, great asset to our community as well. So in that, we are looking for additional members. We're missing Stan tonight, who is part of this committee. Are we missing anybody else?
We're missing Hans.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's key something or other for his health.
Okay, so, and in Hans is usually always here. He's a very committed. But in that, we do have a few more openings for two more. So we'd like to, if there's anyone that you guys know in the business community, but it doesn't have to be in the business community, but to someone that is connected with Sandy within a business or lives inside there, that maybe we can recruit in that. Please myself know or let staff know that we can look at recruiting, because we'd like to have a full group here, especially when we're not always able to make it. And so that kind of is part of the quorum. We did shrink the size of our committee, because when we first started, it was quite large, and that was done on purpose to kind of kick things off. But as we all know, we're very busy people. You are as well. And so not everyone was able to make those things. We have decided to kind of step away from those. But for quorum's sake and we wanted to commit, people are committed to being here. We shrunk that number down to, I think, 9. Is it?
It's 10.
Or 10, okay. And so we need a couple more people to.
Is there an application online or a link to go to? 'Cause I know
Yeah,
I've gotten, so it's on the website too.
yeah, I
Track somebody.
So we can open up an application period. Usually it's around a month or so that we'll leave it open. We could do it starting tomorrow if you'd like to. And yeah, there'll be a place to apply. We advertise that.
But if we do know people that are out there, we'd like, to encourage them out there, we can help do that as well. Sometimes that person will invite, say, hey, this is, where we want to be, it's a place to apply. That can be helpful too for them to encourage to do that.
Do you guys want me to share that with the chamber to businesses? Or do you want to be a little bit, I mean, I know since board you're a little pickier about, just anybody in fun.
I don't know.
If you guys want to talk about, let me know too and email me. I'd be happy to share it for each
Sure.
of us, but.
I think usually what we do is we'll advertise it far and wide, but then we'll do an interview process, right? So you weed it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, just to let you know, when Ernie stepped down, he did say that one of his sons might be interested in joining.
Okay.
So there's some interest.
Okay, that's great. So anyway, there's that. It looks like we need to appoint a vice chair. So I guess that is open for discussion. Don't everybody jump out but once here.
Chair, I nominate Counselor Smallwood for vice.
I knew you were gonna do
So
that.
whoever
Chris.
speaks
I
up
had
first,
this
I always nominate
gut
someone
feeling.
else for that position, so. Any other discussion? Lori, what do you?
Oh, that's fine. I don't.
We get some diversity at leadership. We get experience.
All right. I guess all those in favor of that?
Sure.
Okay. All right,
It's a
Lori.
lively bunch, Chris. It's a lively
You're
bunch.
now the vice chair.
Oh, boy.
Where he becomes VP for Shanghai.
Believe me, it's yeah, there's no, you don't get any perks. I guarantee
No
you.
perks?
Yeah, I don't either. All right. right.
You have to run a certain amount of miles.
Do I?
Yeah, every day.
Oh,
That's why I didn't. put my hand
No,
up.
you're off.
But anyway, so we'll move on, get to the heart of this. Meeting times and current, we already talked about current vacancies, but meeting times, is this still a good time usually? When, what is it, the first Wednesday?
First Wednesday of every other month. So
Oh,
the
every
next
other-
meeting would be the first Wednesday in May. And the first Wednesday in July.
Which actually in May I won't be here.
Wow.
I have a
This-
conference.
This is a,
And
this is a
then
popular
Sharon-
theme. This is what happened after I got the council president job.
I was
Sam was
gonna-
immediately gone.
Up to the board, obviously. If we're not able to get through all the material tonight, we may want to follow up on this topic.
Okay.
We may want to do it sooner than May, but
Yeah.
up to the board, obviously.
Okay. We can talk about that at the end of the meeting there. So. Anyways, so other than that, does this usually work? It seems to work for
The
this
exception of
group.
July, it works for me.
So a lot of times in the summer, we will
Okay.
taking the time off, because as you well know, I don't like to meet just to have a meeting on that. I want to have something there. So David and I discuss usually a couple weeks prior of what topics are, and in the past, you know, that we've canceled some meetings just because there's just not enough content to give in a meeting just to meet. So that's, you guys understand that and appreciate not meeting just to meet. So any other topics? Anything before we dive into the meat of why we're here? I know we want to keep it going so we can get into that. Any other topics about the city? Any updates of your businesses or things that you want to share? No, everything is going dandy in 2023.
Business is business. It's, February, well, January in the brewing industry is pretty brutal because everybody's got dry January.
Oh.
But it was weird. It didn't really happen in January. February was the month. I could have just stayed closed this month. for the most
Really?
part.
Really?
But it'll bounce right back. It's
Yeah,
like tonight, the place is full.
Yeah.
We got open mic night tonight, so
okay, so Lent
People
isn't
need to
having
play
an
in.
effect on you right now?
doesn't seem to.
Okay.
Hardcore people do not give up drinking for money.
That's
what they live
They
on.
pick something else out, right? They'll give up running.
I'm a good Lutheran boy, it's fine.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and.
Onward and
jump into- Yeah, and if we get done early, we get done early, but I don't think that's been a problem with.
No, it hasn't been, and I don't anticipate it being a problem. So. So I guess, Elliot, can you?
Well, Elliot, can you hear us? Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
there he is.
There he is.
Just, I guess, to set the stage briefly, you all have been very involved in the economic development strategic plan over the last number of months, and we're excited to be at the point tonight, right, David?
Yes,
That
we are.
there's a draft plan. You can see a lot of that material in your packet, but Elliot's gonna walk us through it. You've seen the goals. That's something that you've seen a long time ago, but what you have now are actual strategies and actions to implement this plan and achieve those goals.
The packet, I think we start on page 16.
Yeah, you gotta get through all the minutes first to see that material. We're still, and actually, you don't have in your packets, I don't think, the actual pretty formatted document. We're still working on this, but you'll see this at the next meeting. And I guess, we just want to get through the material, want to make sure that you all agree that this captures the input that you've given over the months, and absolutely dig into things and ask questions and make recommendations. And what we're hoping to get is a recommendation to the city council from this body saying, hey, we endorse this plan. So feel free to make it yours. And anyway, so Elliot, did I capture everything? I'm sure you're going to walk us through it. So
I am going to, but I couldn't have said it better.
thanks, Elliot. Take it away.
All right, are you ready to rock, Elliot?
I am. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
One more, please.
Well, I will just say to kick it off, I regret that I'm not able to be there in person tonight, and I wasn't scheduled to be, but I did end up flying out of PDX this morning after being in Eastern Washington last night. I heard And obviously this source was incorrect, that by the morning, PDX itself had received 7.5 inches of snow. So I was worried about my flight. I got up an extra hour and a half early, only to find out that there was no snow on the ground at PDX, and I really could have gotten the extra sleep. But it struck me that it was a shame I had to miss some in-person time with you all, given that I was so close. I had something I needed to be home for this evening, but at least I was in the area and it was good to be back. I do have some slides tonight. They're up on screen. I wanted to walk through them because they'll orient you to the document, but the slides themselves are quite simple and they stay at the level of the vision and the goals and the strategies, which is to say they omit the most detailed level of the hierarchy, the actions themselves. Now, I gather that you've received the actions, so I am happy to discuss those at length and any of them that you all wish to bring up, even if I don't have slides that speak to them. I'm perfectly willing to come back for another meeting if we feel we need that extra time to get through the additional content. But for tonight, I just mostly wanted to orient you to the document that's coming together as the final plan. Make sure you know kind of how to use it, how to work through it, where the different pieces of content are located. And beyond that, I think we can depart from my slides or go wherever the conversation should go to cover, the bases that you all want to cover. Sound okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I mentioned that it was a simple presentation, quick project status overview, a review of the vision and goals. You've seen these in draft form. We've since more or less called them final, unless you throw up a yellow flag tonight. And then talk about how to use this plan and next steps. We can move on. In terms of project status, we are at a point where we have a draft document in place. It's formatted. There's the cover page. We're at a point where we're really looking for review, and we want to make sure that the content that made its way in there is both reflective of your priorities and what you think is right for Sandy, but also reasonably complete. So I think tonight the questions are, is there anything we got wrong? And then secondarily, is there anything that maybe we didn't get wrong, but we just missed and should find a home in here still and hasn't? If we deem it appropriate to have another meeting to review this content in greater depth, that would be that second bullet, review number 2. And I gather we'll determine that toward the end of this meeting. So here's where we landed on a vision statement. I've done some selective bolding because it harkens back to things that we've talked about in the past. Sandy is a vibrant community that leverages the economic might of the metropolitan area and the outdoor gems of Mount Hood, offering businesses and residents a unique balance between professional opportunity and outstanding quality of place. We cherish the small businesses that propel our dynamic downtown and welcome visitors who wish to experience all that Sandy has to offer while strategically investing in new, high-quality jobs for our talented residents. And so this is an aspirational statement. It's where you want to go or where you want your economy to go. But there are some important things here. There's the concept of being a crossroads, sort of halfway between the larger city, the metropolitan region, and Mount Hood as a destination, having a unique opportunity as the largest city between Gresham and Timberline to capture some of the spending that comes with that. And also you have unique outdoor assets unto yourselves. At the same time, you don't want to be purely a tourist destination that only has jobs and retail and services. You don't just want to cater to mountain bikers at Sandy Ridge, and we totally get that. So we want to make sure that we're focused on allowing small businesses to thrive, making sure downtown remains a special place for Sandy residents and visitors alike, and that we're offering workforce development opportunities for career advancement for Sandy residents, that we're offering opportunities for individuals to really access economic opportunity and to move forward in their careers. And so this statement is intended to capture all of those things. I'll pause in case there's any discussion on this vision statement, although I don't believe this has evolved too much since the last time you all saw it as a board.
Any discussion? All right, not hearing anything.
All right, we'll move forward to the goals. These goals have changed very little since you've last seen them, although I did, because we do have a draft, a PDF draft of the formatted plan now. And I anticipate that draft will change a little bit. There are some things that we're still buttoning up and working toward improving. But this is actually a snapshot of the plan as it's coming together. We've got some color coding for the goals. We use that color coding throughout the document so that we're kind of signposting what content we're talking about. But the substance of the goals, number one, improve systems to ensure broad and durable access to economic opportunity and maintain Sandy's high quality of life. So this is where some of that workforce development, access to opportunity, those types of things come in, other quality of life assets and how we leverage those. Goal two, leverage our investments in technology to maximize economic benefits. And this doesn't have to just be about SandyNet, but we didn't want to leave SandyNet behind or leave it out of the plan. We thought it was a meaningful investment that the city has made, and that there is economic opportunity that's associated with that investment that the city could do more to be capturing or building on. Goal three, build on our assets in manufacturing to establish Sandy as a destination for metals fabrication and related activities. Part of this builds on content in the economic opportunities analysis that has been prepared over the last year. That document identified metals manufacturing as a sector, or I guess subsector, that had both relatively high employment in Sandy, but also a very high location quotient. And location quotient measures the concentration of that activity, the strength of it relative to the concentration in a broader geography. So it's more clustered in Sandy than it is in the larger region. That being said, it is also a regional point of emphasis. It's something that aligns with what Clackamas County is seeking to amplify through their economic development efforts. And we even see an interesting opportunity in tie-ins with your recreation assets, with companies in the Portland region like Leatherman, how they need metals manufacturing to do outdoor tools, and there may be some synergies there. So that's just it's not the whole shot with goal three, but it's a unique spin on goal three. Goal four is to cultivate innovation in specialty food and beverage industries and align with the region's robust food storage and processing sector. Obviously, you have an asset in Everfresh just outside the city. You also have a lot of regional food production in the sense of being on or near the Fruit Loop, and there may be opportunities for food storage and processing that are associated with that pay reasonably good wages. So that's why goal four was included. Goal five, invest in hospitality and place-based tourism to make Sandy the most active and vibrant base camp for Mount Hood area adventures. And while you already have a lot of people coming to Sandy for recreation, for the Sandy Mountain Festival, I mentioned the cyclists at Sandy Ridge, although certainly that's not your only biking asset. Having explored some of the back roads around Sandy, there are tons of good routes. There's fishing in the river. There's, launching yourself up to the mountain for skiing during the winter or biking during the summer, all kinds of hiking opportunities. I don't have to tell you about your recreation assets. What goal five does is attempt to reframe those in a way where Sandy captures more of the economic activity associated with them, more of the spending, more of the overnight stays. How does Sandy become the destination unto itself because of its centrality, not just to one asset like a ski resort, but to a plethora of assets that are really all around Sandy and that tumble down the ridgelines of Mount Hood. Goal six, be a leader as both retail hub and heart of East Clackamas County. And this is just establishing your identity as, the largest city in the eastern part of the county, a place where folks come for necessary services, goods, et cetera. Obviously, you don't have taxable retail sales in Oregon, so this isn't a fiscal benefit as much as it is the fact that it spurs small businesses, because there's ancillary spending associated with spending at larger retailers. If somebody comes in to go to a Fred Meyer or a Costco, they might well go to the small business located next door or across the street because they have something else to grab that's not available at that larger retailer. And it also does provide entry-level jobs, and jobs across all wage levels or across the spectrum of wages are important to meet the various needs of your population. So we believe there's an opportunity there. Any questions about these goals and why any of them were included, or feel free to wordsmith them if something seemed inappropriate or out of place?
The hospitality for Sandy seems a little bit of a tough nut. You've got what, one hotel? And what's the occupancy of that? Is it being utilized? And
He's actually doing better than you might think.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think he was doing very well either, but no, his occupancy is actually quite good.
so is there a need for that? To me, it's something like a McMinimum's, another hotel. And I think that would really help the downtown for the eateries and beer places. I think I see that growing, between you guys and the beer den. It's all walkable, which is kind of nice. But I think it's just lacking in the
It's hard to decide if
additional
that's
hotel.
cart before the horse or not.
Yeah, it's gotta be,
But you gotta have it for people, no reason to come.
yeah, some sort of
So
uniqueness.
it's- yeah, so
When we were on the visitor center, when I first started the chamber, a lot of the questions we got, or even after, but a lot of the phone calls we got from people coming to stay with somebody. Where can we stay? Your hotel's booked, where can we go? And, there wasn't a lot of options either direction. So, and with COVID, things might have changed some, but I think, and I know especially during Mountain Festival, hotels way booked. So, yeah, I would love to see some like.
Or is it taking more events, like Sandy Mountain Days to say, okay, we need to put a hotel. I know the property we had in front of the club, a hotel looked at it. And when they researched it, they just didn't see Sandy supporting it. Because people, when it's passed through, people are gonna go to government camp if they want to go up skiing and stuff.
Unless there's nowhere to stay.
pretty hard to put a room up
What-
the mountain anymore either.
Yeah, what he told me when I was talking with him about that hotel is, he said, we really like Sandy. We like the location and everything. So the problem is you're just not
Not
quite
quite there.
big enough yet.
It's
And
critical
that was like
mass.
that was 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we are quite.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things is events like at the high school, robotics, they
That's
host the
crazy.
largest robotics tournament in Oregon. It's amazing. And what happens is all these teams from all over, high schoolers from all over the state come, their buses, but there's not a place to stay. They have to go all the way into Gresham to find different hotels and then bus them back out in the morning, And so, and then just use that as one example. There's multiple, and there'll be multiple more events happening at the high school because of their fields and other things, tournaments. The other thing was not just that, we also heard they need a trailer, not trailer park is in mobile homes, but as
Yeah,
RV, an RV park. Because-
Phone calls from the closest.
Yeah.
We had the closest one, and I've heard that since when I first started on council, it's like, if we had that, they could actually host more events in town, because people come for that softball tournament for 3 days or 2 days, whatever, and a lot of those all travel with that. So I think the hospitality in that, maybe not just be a hotel, but it could be a combination.
Right.
And a destination one, like minimums, has always been one. We just need to convince the brothers that maybe
We
the
have an old
hospice.
Building that works right for that. They're like taking over old schools and stuff. They don't build from scratch.
Well, there is one that I think is pretty neat, is the old hospice. It was the hospice, it was a hospital at one point.
Right now,
The
it's
hotel.
a senior center.
It's a new
not the
assisted
senior
So we're on
living.
seating.
Yeah.
A little bit haunted is always good for them too.
I think that one might be fun.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyways, that's not here nor there, but
The one that's up in Washington. Kalama built. That's the only one that was built. It was if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And the Port of Kalama built that for McMinimum's.
Wow.
So there is at least one.
See, I thought they took over something old up there.
Prior to that, they
Those
did,
normally-
you're 100% right, but that is the one exception. So there is a path if we wanted to develop something, potentially. Cedar Ridge.
Well, I'm like, oh, it'd be a park right next to.
yeah, there's those things. And actually, when I went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, the city actually, they couldn't get someone to build anything. They built their own conference center, like a hotel there that was municipally owned, kind of like our fiber internet. Not saying that we go down that path, but some people, when they couldn't get people to come do it for them, just like we couldn't get internet,
Mhm.
the city decided to do that. I think they actually turned around and sold that hotel later, because they realized, oh, wow, this is popular, right? And so,
Yeah, Estacada's done that on a couple of buildings where they've purchased them, fixed them up, and someone to rent it and then sold it so they could get the property tax money out of it. It had a higher value.
Redmond, Oregon has done that many times over with their urban renewal.
The only other potential property would be that if, like, the school district were to get a levy for elementary schools, would be Sandy Grade,
Yeah,
which is in that exact same location.
right now,
Which would be
So,
right next to.
right downtown on Pleasant Street.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, any other discussions on our goals or changes or edits?
And I see Elliot has his hand raised.
Oh, hi, Elliot. Just speak up because you're on two different screens and so we're looking at the opposite wall.
It would have been the perk of having been there in person, not to rub salt in the wound. I did get to attend my second grader's first actual like school event because of the pandemic tonight. It was a Rock in the Decades concert. So it was a personal reason to get home, but it was quite fun to be there. So I'd butt right in if I were in person with you, but we'll work with this, I suppose. I have some strong thoughts on this one, and I believe as an outsider, if you value an outsider's perspective, that there's a ton of meat on the bone for Sandy here. And I understand as a professional in economic development that, this doesn't always mean the highest of wage jobs, but you take Boring Brewing as a small business that hires individuals in the community where money is going directly into the pockets of Sandy residents. That's a business that would tremendously benefit from an influx of folks staying overnight because they're visiting Mount Hood related assets. So I do think that it has its place in your overall scheme of economic development. Where I think the opportunities lie are, yes, by all means, let's see if we can get McMenamins involved, because that would be fantastic. Another, I suppose you'd call them a hotelier, although it's a specific type of hotel experience that you may be familiar with, is Loge, L-O-G-E. And they've been expanding quite rapidly, but they started in the Pacific Northwest, and they currently have hotels. These are small hotels that focus on things like gear storage, bikes, skis. They're very much meant for folks interested in active recreation. Sometimes they have, shared room, dormitory style, but you can get your own private room too. It's not just like a hostel. It's sort of a step up from that. Their locations are Bend, Westport, Washington, Leavenworth, Washington, Mount Shasta, California, and they are moving into Crystal Mountain Resort in Washington by acquiring an existing lodging property, and then South Fork, Colorado, and Taos, New Mexico. So my perspective on this is one of someone who spent 5 years living in Seattle and skiing in the Washington Cascades, someone who has spent 3 nights in Govey at Collins Lake and found the only nightlife opportunity to be the Rathskeller and skied in the rain at Ski Bowl, and someone who now lives in Colorado and tries to ski as much as I can with a 4 and a 7-year-old. This South Fork, Colorado expansion of Loge camps is interesting because South Fork only has a population of 500 people. So this brand is not afraid of going into smaller markets. You're much larger than that and have way more assets than South Fork. The reason why they're in South Fork is to access Wolf Creek ski resort in Colorado. It's not one that many people have heard of, although it gets more snow than just about any other in Colorado. It's very remote. It's 25 miles from South Fork up the pass to Wolf Creek. But Wolf Creek is similar to a lot of the Pacific Northwest resorts in the sense that it doesn't have on-site lodging. And I get that there's the Timberline Lodge, but Meadows doesn't have much on-site lodging, if any. And, Govey, the lodging is Collins Lake or some Airbnbs. I'm sure there are a couple of others, but there's not a critical mass of lodging, and it's not at the base of the resort. And there's not a lot to do once you're in Govey. You're limited to just a few establishments for food and beverage. Similarly, throughout the rest of the Pacific Northwest, if you go up to Stevens Pass, there's very little on-site lodging. And so people go down to Leavenworth. I think there's an opportunity here to be the analog to the down to Leavenworth, and we can cast aside all the baggage of what Leavenworth is and whether or not you buy into the Bavarian theme. I do think they do a good job of incorporating ancillary events like ice sculptures and things like that, which based on the climate in Sandy in the winter may or may not be feasible, but you can find your own brand of that where what you're selling is being not the closest to the mountains during the winter, but close enough to the mountains during the winter, and 8, 9, 10 different food and beverage options, as opposed to 2 or 3 different food and beverage options, 2 or 3 different hotel options, assuming we can get a couple of these parties to generate some interest. I think it's the additional assets, it's being in a little bit larger space, it's not being so isolated. So a bit of a rant, but having been in that position as the tourist visiting Mount Hood, and also knowing who you're competing against in the Pacific Northwest, I see a real opportunity here. And then I think you potentially even beat some of the on-mountain opportunities in the summer by virtue of things like Sandy Ridge. I mean, I get that there are trails up on the mountain too, but Sandy Ridge is nationally known as a trail system, and you could build on that by developing secondary and tertiary assets in, say, the biking space or something like that. So just some food for thought, I guess, on goal 5.
Thanks, Elliot. Elliot, I don't know if you know this, but you mentioned Leavenworth several times. My uncle's the mayor there. So,
well,
yeah.
We were just there in December.
Anyway,
when you talk to your uncle next, I promise I wasn't casting shade on the Bavarian themed architecture.
oh, it's fine. It's got its unique. That's why people go there.
Well, people go there because that's where you can stay if you're going to Stevens. I mean, not exclusively, of course. It's a beautiful place. The mountains are gorgeous. They tower above the town. I'm sure many of you have been there, if not all of you. But going down the west side, you get the back to Seattle traffic, which I'm sure that phenomenon exists for day trippers going up to Timberline or Meadows, and people wish to avoid that. And then you also just don't have that many lodging options in Index or Scenic or Bering or Gold Bar. And you probably wouldn't want to stay there anyway because they just don't offer the amenities. So people would rather drive the extra 20, 25 miles down to Leavenworth and then back up to the base so that they have something to do at night. They have a decent restaurant to get a meal at. And I think Sandy in some ways is in a similar position that it could capitalize on. I don't know. Is this out of left field?
No, not at all.
Well, I like that too, because
Speaking
you
my
have the
language.
express, not the express that goes up there too, which.
I was just gonna mention, yeah, now that we
So
have,
you don't have, I mean, they could, get here,
not
you
only
don't
do
have
we
to
have,
rent a car to get up there, they've got a.
exactly, and having a public transit option up there is always nice, just for people who don't wanna drive it into another. Like people like my dad and his wife, 80 and 74, don't want to keep driving, it's dark out. So that's great. They can get up to the top of the mountain back for $5 and not afford it.
Or if you want to squeeze 2 days in on the mountain, but you don't have a long weekend, right? You've just got a Saturday and Sunday, maybe, and this is my own personal experience creeping in, but you're trying to facilitate learning for your 4 and 7-year-old, not to get too specific. It's tough trying to teach them 1 day a month. You need those consecutive days to really get the hang of it. But it's also tough then, to drive up and deal with the traffic, drive back, deal with the traffic, up, deal with the traffic, back, deal with the traffic. I'm in Denver, reasonable analog for Portland in terms of access to some of the ski resorts. I'd stay here in Colorado and Idaho Springs or Georgetown that was halfway up if it meant I didn't have to fight that traffic to get that second consecutive day on the mountain for my kids. So I think it caters to maybe a specific market. It's not for everyone. There will still be those who choose to stay up on the mountain. There will still be those who choose to come back down to Portland or some other combination. But I definitely think that there are folks that would value the option to stay in Sandy, provided, the downtown continued to develop some of these robust food and beverage options, and you were able to find 1 or 2 more hospitality options.
well, why don't we keep moving? We're running out of time here.
So these are the strategies. The colors, of course, coordinate with the goals. They're also numbered. So the first number signifies the goal. 1.1, 1.2 are both part of goal 1, 2.1, 2.2 part of goal 2, and so on. I don't think I need to read all of these. Maybe we can just leave them on screen for a minute and then see if there's any discussion.
And hey, Elliot, this is Jeff, just so you know, the board has the actions in front of them as well on these. And so they can see all of it right now.
Perfect. I've got the actions on my second monitor, so we can reference those as well if it's helpful.
Is that action starts there on page 3 or
The actions are the bullets.
bullets
Right.
here? Yeah.
Yeah. But if you look at like 1.1, that corresponds to this. 1.2 corresponds.
Yeah, we had to make this before we had the nice color that.
We go through, the different colors, the 1, the 2, there's several there. Is there any comments on the first? The first part? 1.1, 1.2?
Hey, Elliot, while they're reading that, do you want to just give them a quick peek about how we're going to add some of that, implementation stuff around these actions?
Yeah, so I was going to touch on next steps with our final slide, which is only a couple slides from here. But we aim to provide some additional supporting content for each of these strategies and actions focused on how the city will implement these. So what we've done to this point is at least identified a sort of lead actor. Usually that's a city department. It could be economic development under David's watch. It could be Parks and Rec. It could be Public Works if it's an infrastructure thing. Maybe it's external to the city and it's, the Chamber of Commerce or something. But for the most part, these are city departments. And then supporting partners. Often the chamber might be there. There would, of course, be others, private sector, businesses, educational institutions, maybe, I already mentioned private sector, but hospitals come to mind because we're looking, or at least I have on screen, strategy 1.1 about improving access to healthcare, childcare. So there are other partners that are going to be in the mix on implementing these, and we're trying to queue up a preliminary list of who you need to be engaging to make sure that this is moving forward. The third thing that we've done so far is to assess the relative priority, just sort of a low, medium, high thing. Where we wish to go and content that we want to add here in the next couple of weeks would be, at a minimum, metrics that we can track so that we know whether or not we're making progress against these strategies or toward these goals. And then beyond that, we will often add, and we are happy to add for the purposes of this plan, things like a relative assessment of the level of effort. Again, typically like a low, medium, high. It can help inform things like prioritization. We can also add some information about the resources needed, staff time, or just timing itself, how long it's going to take before this might be implemented. Is this a 6-month project or is this a 3-year project? So those are examples of the type of content, but we want to build out the implementation section of the plan document before we call it final.
And when would you have that part completed?
Well, again, a couple of those components, the leads, the partners, and the prioritization, we already have completed. The metrics, we do not. Timing and level of effort, we do not. I believe we can have that done as soon as within a week if we aren't making changes to the goals, strategies, and actions themselves. We may need a little bit more time than that if we do want to edit some of these strategies and actions.
Jeremy, would it be helpful if he kind of talked us through his thinking on some of these? Or do you want-
Yeah, no, that's fine. What are you guys' thoughts on there? I know we went over this already at the last meeting, which was back in November, so I know it's been a few months on that, so.
Jared, just for clarity, the goals are not prioritized, right? They're just all encompassing.
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah, the goals stand on an equal footing. They don't have to, though, Councilmember Maton, to be clear. There are a couple ways we could approach that if you felt like certain goals, and if the board felt like certain goals needed to rise above the others. Either we could just integrate the prioritization and the strategies that nest under those goals, which is to say, if you thought goals 3 and 4, for example, were more important than the rest, we could make sure that the strategies and actions were rated with higher prioritization levels within those. Or we could just come up with a mechanism for rating the goals themselves and sort of rank order them in a way that suggested you should take on goal 1 first, or allocate the largest share of your resources, your time, your dollars to goal 1, then secondarily to goal 2, so on and so forth. So that's certainly not out of the question.
Well, I only asked just because I do like the goals, and just from my perspective, I think they're all important. But anytime I see more than 3 goals, I get concerned about how much resources we have to put towards them and actually get them accomplished. And so I like to see things more dwindled down into priorities personally, because we can then put our emphasis on the vital few, and then expand it out as those gain some traction.
It's a good point. We typically try to stay between 3 and 7 goals, never any more than 7, because it's just too much to bite off. But one of the reasons why I feel comfortable with going to 5 or 6 in this case is because I think some of the actions are going to be mutually reinforcing. So you could do something that we have listed under goal 5, but it's also benefiting or working toward goal 6, for example. And so if we're prioritizing well at the level of the actions or the strategies, I think we can be checking multiple boxes along the way and really kind of accelerating the forward movement.
That makes sense, but I guess I would push back just a little bit and say that's only if we have a dedicated timeline to accomplishing each of the resources, right? Because if you can say they're multifaceted, but if you don't have a timeline, you're not going to have a sense of urgency to accomplish it.
Absolutely. I think that's more than fair. And I've seen different communities choose to take this on in different ways. One of the strategies that we did that I think had initially caught David's eye was for the city of Astoria. And Astoria very clearly wanted a 5-year action plan and no more than that. And I think they understood that not all of the goals would be fully realized in 5 years, but you'd have made progress toward the goals in 5 years, such that if you refreshed your strategy after those 5 years, your strategic plan, that is, one, you'd have an opportunity to make sure the goals are still the goals, right? Maybe things have shifted by that time such that you say, well, these 4 are still good, but this one we need to reevaluate. But also you'd be ready for a new suite of actions. You'd say, yeah, we've incrementally moved forward. They set a very tangible goal of 200 new jobs in Astoria within that 5-year period. And if you had even fallen short, but come close, 180 jobs or something, you say, well, that's pretty good progress. What are the new actions we need to undertake to not just get those additional 20, but now we want to, raise the bar and go for another 100. So I do think you can hold your feet to the fire like that if you choose to. But I've also seen cities that prefer a little bit more flexibility in how these things get implemented. And so really that's a choice for you all as a board and for city staff to determine what your preference is on that front.
Who's reaching out to like medical facilities? Are you talking to medical facilities? When you have those conversations, it might be worth leveraging the closure of the birthing
Oh,
center
yeah.
at Mount Hood,
Absolutely.
and the fact that it leaves East Clackamas County, all of East County under service significantly. There are, according to Legacy, 1,500 patients that they see, but only 700 births. So where are those other 700 people going? And so is that they're either going to Providence or they're going to Kaiser. So it'd be worth finding out who's getting them and then leverage that hospital specifically. Because they're all coming from East County. They're just not, using legacy.
This whole time, I've been, aside from that issue, I've been thinking about it from the perspective of, really the next step here is probably trying to convince our clinic to go 24/7. If we can, but that would be a lot more feasible than building a new facility. Not that I wouldn't love to have a hospital. I would love to have a hospital. I think that's a little bit of a harder sell. I think, it just seems to me that you kind of need to approach that incrementally. That whole thing with the birthing center, that changes that changes the equation. I need to do some reading.
I was just thinking the same.
Because now you could, clearly there is demand out there for service, because like you said, those 700 or 800 people are going somewhere,
They're going somewhere.
right?
According
And-
to legacy, they're not using them, so that means their insurance is either Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're going to Providence, or they're Kaiser patients.
Right.
So, yeah. Kaiser doesn't have a birthing facility to my knowledge, so it tells me they're probably going to Providence.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Sunnyside.
Sunnyside does.
Sunnyside does? Okay. Well, I'm
They used
misinformed.
to.
Was it, 20 years ago, I know they. So we
I'm
used to
pretty
never
sure they
do
said
it.
that,
They probably still do that. Yeah.
Used-
but your partner
very
guys are,
Yeah, that's,
Right.
I mean, they're kind of their own.
Entity,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, not the random person goes to Kaiser. they-
Right.
But anyway, one of them might be looking to expand. It might be worth.
And that's what we're, not for the birthing side of it, but just expansion out there, Providence or Adventist. They're farther into Portland, out this way. But continue to beat that drum, and sometimes you get where the services are being dropped from a nearby place may help expand that.
Well, yeah, and if their emergency room's gonna get as full as they were saying at the council meeting when we were testifying, we're gonna need emergency care, emergent care here. We can't, we gotta wait there hours for days.
Struck with me is the amount of demand. I had no idea there was so much demand for healthcare services. I mean, I knew there was. I didn't know it was that bad. That changes things. We can talk somebody into building. Hey, I'm getting too far off.
Been a while. It's time to give birth, it was time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
We
not
didn't
like
want
you
to
can
drive
delay
that
it
far.
much.
No.
That's right.
Yeah, they're
90
talking
minutes.
about Welch's, as they say,
Yeah.
people coming down.
My wife talked about like that fast. I don't think she had 5 hours of labor on 3 kids.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So to keep things rolling for time, any more discussion on the goals that we have? We've kind of read through them. We've seen them before, but they've kind of expanded a little bit on that. Any editing of those goals? We on the right track? We were, this is just follow-up of the last one, more detail. So we've kind of, I did some massaging of editing before, and now we're at this point. So how are we feeling about what we see here in front of us?
I would say is if people are on edge because there's too many, they do kind of group together.
From
You
build on
could
each other.
probably build that into, if it really had to, you could build that into 3 goals. Maybe 4.
I guess
But you kind of overlap.
what I like about having them as the 6 goals versus trying to shrink them down is that there's different groups within inside the city that do different things.
Right.
And so it's not just one department, it's one city, but in different areas that can be kind of worked upon on that. So it's not all under, say, David, but you're leveraging different parts of the city for that. You might be the orchestrator. And it doesn't just narrow down too much. We're only gonna go after hotels or only after this
Right.
one niche, right?
Yeah.
Because we need all of it.
I mean, saying that, I'm good with the 6. Just if there's a concern with people, it could be,
I think the retail follows all the others. Because as quality of life and people move out, they're gonna, be shopping and need additional services. Next
Well,
thing
that's
you see
the
is a
thing.
Home Depot comes out here, things like that.
So
So
that's the
I-
thing with our rapid growth too, is that, the retail's gonna follow.
yeah, that's
One
kind
way or
of given. So, as far as if you're to prioritize, I'd say that's the last one.
Yeah,
'cause if
exactly.
the others take care of ill
But
ensued.
has that grown with the growth?
It's starting to now. I mean, when we first saw the growth, we had some more, well, first of all, I don't want to take too much time with this, but downtown had some issues as far as growing. We had, there were a lot of derelict buildings around. There were barriers to business expansion downtown. I think over the last 5-6 years, I've really worked to kind of clean up a lot of that. And now we're seeing some of these lots start to develop.
Right.
There's only so much development space there. That's why the old barn district on the other side of town is going to be really important.
Right. Well,
I'm not-
Sticking,
I'm
isn't
not-
it?
We're trying.
It's sticking, isn't it?
And granted,
I'm trying to make it
I'm on the retail end of the world,
Right.
but my number one complaint I hear in my place is there's no place to eat in Sandy. There's no
Yeah.
place to whatever in Sandy. So is the quality of life still that great up here?
Yes, because
Or are
it's
you
improved.
having to drive to Gresham to do whatever you want to do?
Well,
So
no,
it's, I don't know
Yeah,
which
I
comes
understand.
first.
It's a chicken and an egg, and I have to say that before Fred Meyers went in, I used to give an example. I had some exchange students that lived with me from Czech Republic, and the guy asked me, I need some socks. And I'm thinking around town, like, I can't buy socks anywhere. I'm like, we're gonna have to go to Gresham, drive what, and of course, in his mind, that's crazy. Like, you can't buy socks in your town. There was no place to buy socks.
Right.
And so those type of things. So people said, I will not shop at Fred Meyers ever, because I'm not, and of course, that lasted about a month, and then you see him in Fred Meyers, and like, where, well, I just didn't want to drive into Gresham.
Right.
So there's that chicken and egg where, but then you notice we also had more people deciding to live here because you had more options, right? And so there's this chicken and egg as we go, as we grow, and you have your growing pains as well.
Right.
Now with this new area of business, the Bell Street 362nd, or where we're calling it, the Barn District.
We're working.
Real quick on that one.
West.
The West Sandy, that may grow into, have a different option. But what they say is if you have one of the more people or restaurants, you may be able to get those restaurants there. It'd be nice to be known as like the foodie city, and have lots of food options for, people travel out to do
Right.
that, but you have to have enough people locally to
Right.
be able.
That's where it's really hard to decide one of these is more important than the other.
right. Because they all kind of feed into each other.
Right. And if you go way down a big road on one of them and the others don't happen, it's not gonna last.
Well, I think I've said this before too. My thought is I drive through a town and I see the cute shops and stuff. When we're going somewhere, even if we're on camping, I'm like, I gotta go shop there in the morning, right? So that's where we may go get a meal at because of shopping.
Sure.
Whereas right now, there's not a lot of shopping for tourists. So
Right.
getting the tourists to stop besides eating,
Yeah.
So many
I
shops.
might be one of those, well, let's go to the next town and see what they have.
I'm all about eating in the town. I want the ambiance, right?
Right, yeah.
So.
Well, and just look at the restaurant, the panoply of restaurants we have now versus what we had like 10 years ago. I mean, we do actually have some pretty good restaurants in Sandy now. Well, Appy's pretty good. Red Shed, and we'll see what this new Sandbar barbecue is like. The Red Shed was pretty good. When I first moved here, we didn't have.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've had a bad deal now.
Right,
Right.
I kind
But-
of give everybody a hard time because I don't even live here.
Yeah.
And I eat here more than most of my people that come
there you
in.
go. Yeah,
And it's like, there's not bad food in town.
Well, we've got.
I mean, it's
several
sad that,
restaurants and-
the biggest hit in the town is Taco Bell's drive-through. But,
Well, see,
they
they started to
did
give
just
them a run for their
they
money.
did just get the thing that they're the healthiest fast food chain.
Do you
Saw
think,
that.
do you think
Taco
that those
Bell.
individuals who are making comments like that are seeking like more of a chain restaurant type thing? Like they want that Red Robin
You
or
know,
the
what's really silly is nobody can tell me what a
good
good
restaurant
restaurant
is?
Right. yeah.
Right. They
don't
just want
change
to
It's just
complain
not what
about-
they have.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I heard complaints about Sandbar Barbecue and he hasn't even opened yet. And there were
Yeah,
already
that
complaints
does
about him. I
happen.
talked to
Doesn't
him the
surprise
other
me.
day and was like, I don't know what to tell you. That's.
But the thing is, I mean, our restaurants, we have more and better restaurants now than we did. We're also starting to see, some retail move in. We've got a women's clothing store moving in here in a couple of weeks. We haven't had anything like that ever since I've been
Like a
here.
boutique?
Wasn't it
Shop-
secondhand?
Yeah, it's
Which we can
consignment,
have
but it's
at
high-end
Chase.
consignment.
We
It's
have-
shop
yeah.
consignment. Have you ever been there downtown Gresham?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen their place.
Go check out the store when she opens up. It's interesting.
Okay.
But, hey,
So there's parts of the final product document that, like Elliot was saying, that you haven't seen yet because they're not done yet, like some of the implementation measures and things like that. So those are still to come, but
That'd be good.
You're seeing by far the majority of the meat of this document, so.
Yeah, and again, these are representative pages, right? I pulled these directly out of what we have sent over so far. Not done, but you can kind of see how it's coming together, how we're organizing it. We have pages that orient you to how to use the document, showing you kind of, okay, this text is a strategy, these are the actions, there's a hierarchy to the content. So it's coming together, and I'm optimistic it's going to come together quite well, but we've got a couple of other pieces to put in play here before we call it done.
Yeah, Elliot, I just remember the other thing that's missing is kind of memorializing the public engagement process that we did, and, talking about Future Fest and all that stuff that we went through. We want to make sure that it's up in the document too. So,
Yeah, we've got a short list, but we need to elaborate on how we engage people, and when right now it's just a bulleted list, and I think there's room to make that stronger and give that more space.
So this document here is not just our input, but all the public engagement input as
yes,
well.
that happened at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Just want to make sure we're clear on that. So it's just not coming to us only, it's
Right.
been vetted by other groups as well.
Was anybody here? Did anybody here go to Future, or what was that called? Future
It was
Fest?
Future Fest. It was back in September.
I wasn't,
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I
lot of
thought
folks
that's
did,
right.
That was the one down at Whippersnap.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Did you stop by for a while? I was.
I couldn't, but I haven't met anybody that did.
Oh, okay.
Well,
now you
so
know.
I don't know.
I was there.
I-
I was there. They had pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty good turnout. Kind of a variety of people
Yeah. It really
that were
was.
there. There was some, I think, some good input.
I mean, a number of surveys as well too. We got input on.
Yeah.
And this, there,
Trying to whittle through some of that,
Company
yeah.
came and spoke to the
Some people
chamber
definitely have
luncheon
agendas.
That's
too
right.
about
Yeah.
the night before Future Fest.
Oh, Shelley.
Sean.
Yeah, 'cause that's Shelley's running comp plan, and that's, we both, the comp plan, the EOA, and this process all kind of use the same public outreach, which was good.
You all were paying attention, so we piggybacked up.
Absolutely. Thank you. I forgot.
anything else, or you have more, Elliot?
This was the next slide.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, tonight, what I went into this meeting with a goal for was confirming the vision and goals. I understand you've spent some time with the actions, so if we can go beyond that and say we're all good with the actions, then what we'll do is wrap up the PDF draft with the rest of the implementation content, some of the supporting content around the engagement process. Otherwise, that second bullet, confirm strategies, leads, and partners, is the content that we would cover if we came back for another meeting. But beyond that, I think we're nearing the finish line. So I think that's really all I have for tonight.
Chris, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm the slow one. Being my first time at this meeting, looking at those goals, I really do understand them all, I think, except for one of them. Could somebody educate me a few minutes on goal 4 for food processing and storage in the city? I've been a resident here since 2005, and I guess I'm ignorant to that side of the business. So if you can just give me a brief rundown on it so I know.
Well, your largest private sector asset in that space is Everfresh, but you also have some locational assets in terms of being on Highway 26, being, relatively close to major interstates, and being on or near the Fruit Loop, where a lot of production, where a lot of agricultural activities take place. There are, I believe, some light industrial needs in terms of processing and cold storage that you could take advantage of, given some of those locational assets. But at the same time, one of the constraints on this goal, and it's worth acknowledging the constraints because all of these goals do have them, is that you don't have a ton of industrial land right now. So this is one that is challenged by land availability in a very real way, because processing, cold storage, distribution all require relatively large footprints on, land zoned for, generally speaking, light industrial land. So that's a consideration, I suppose.
And just as a guy that's come from a big beverage, global distributors, I just see us too far from interstate. I can't speak for the food side of it, but from a beverage side, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, Sandy's is too far off the beaten path of major highway to put a warehouse for a distributor. And that's what I do, supply chain. So I just saw that one to be, kind of unanimous to me. But the Fruit Loop definitely makes sense, though. I thank you for explaining that. I'm not that smart with that side of it, so appreciate it.
No, that totally makes sense. And I do think that is I said it with the industrial and the access to interstates is absolutely a consideration here too. I do think though you have a separate catchment area than something like Hood River, right? Like there's a smaller but separate catchment area on the side of Hood that you are on, and there may be an opportunity there. Again, you have some shared expertise and some workforce characteristics by virtue of having Everfresh there locally. So that was the thinking behind that goal.
Makes sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's also a few other processing canneries and plants. I worked in one as a high schooler as well around with the berries. Now, a lot of berries farming has kind of gone away to nursery stock in that aspect of it, but you kind of cluster those together. So, having Everfresh there is a key component. It helps Everfresh to have other processing plants as well around you. But I agree with you, Chris, that we are just not along the I-5, 205, I-84 path.
It's just a long path to the highway. That's all.
For the overall storage or distribution, but the short-term storage of processing plants, I think.
Right, local
is key there. But unfortunately, if you go back 30 years ago, we had a lot more. Lori knows you were here. We had a lot more berry fields everywhere and a lot more processing.
My summer
plants.
job.
So,
There's
but
just a lot more of that industry in northwestern Oregon.
Yeah.
I think strawberries when I was 14, 15.
Are there cold storage businesses that we're actually pursuing? I mean, do we have businesses in mind here, or is this just kind of a?
I don't think we have anybody has any active ones, but what we heard Kurt when he was here, I mean, they bring in stuff from all over,
I know they do.
all over the Northwest to
Yeah.
come here to do the processing and those type of things. I think that was some of the things in my conversation we had because, they do all the food dye for all of Tillamook, right? I mean, wow.
Ice cream.
Those are the things, but there's other things like that your economic gardening, right, with others around that, you may compete with employees, but then as he was telling us that his employees love to be at Sandy because of the location outside of they don't want to be downtown Portland doing this stuff. It's a lot cheaper to be here.
Hey, if we could just provide the cold storage for him.
Well, some other private company can do that, but yeah.
Well, not us, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if the city of Sandy could provide a host for just his cold storage, I would imagine that's probably a lot of cold storage.
And we talked about some of the synergies between goals too. If we're talking about retail and hospitality options and providing more curated and craft-oriented local food and beverage options, I think there's a tie-in too on the output side there, where maybe you're not only in it for the light industrial uses associated with processing, you're also looking at some of the foods that are being processed and how you can tell a story about the way those things are derived locally and how they filter into your restaurants and things like that. So I do think there are some synergies there with goal 6 that are worth keeping in mind.
That'd be a great industry.
Yeah. Might need a grant from the city to buy some bigger tanks.
And Jeremy, your term is gastronomy, I think. I think that's the technical word for food is gastronomy, way to eat, delicatessen, right?
What?
Gastronomy.
Gastronomy.
I haven't heard that.
Okay.
Interesting. All right.
That's how they raise cities in Europe.
I think a couple of choices, right? So hearing mostly consensus about the strategies and action. I think really the question is for the board, do you want to schedule another meeting so you can see the final PDF of the document before you forward a recommendation to the council, or would you just endorse what you've seen? And really, because really most of what's left is the formatting and putting in the public engagement stuff. And I guess you may have interest in some of the implementation details. So maybe you want to have another meeting on that account. It's kind of up to the board.
What do you guys think as a board? So what we're missing, well, what Jeff just said, but I guess the only piece that I see that, we have really discussion on is the implementation aspect.
Like the metrics, the performance measures and that sort of.
Yeah.
Right.
And so this is going in front of the council when?
It's not scheduled yet.
Not scheduled yet, but I know. it
We
was-
should have that piece though before it goes to council. because
Absolutely.
That will be,
We want to totally button that
yeah,
up.
Yeah, it'll be
that'll
buttoned
be
up for
a-
the council
Right.
that'll be a
Absolutely.
hang up if not.
I would feel best doing that.
doing,
Well, I mean, so it sounds like we're leaning towards one more meeting too.
Well, I mean, that's a question for the board. I don't want to schedule.
that's what I'm asking the board. Do we want to see those metrics before we send it on to the council?
I guess the big question is, are we supposed to deliver a finished product?
Well, Elliot will have a finished product that
Right.
goes in front of the council.
But are we supposed to be endorsing that before it goes there?
My personal opinion is that would be great if this body could endorse everything. I
Yes.
realize it'll take another meeting, but that would be ideal.
I would agree.
Okay. I think that we have consensus on that. And
We can work.
we can work with Elliot and David and I will find a meeting time between now and when Elliot and team have this buttoned up.
Elliot, how long do you think that would take you to get, to be ready for a second meeting?
I'm not hearing any major changes to the strategies and actions, so I think we can turn around the final draft of this. Well, I may answer your question with a question, David, in the sense that how many turns do you think we want internally between you, Jeff, and I to hammer out the metrics? But I think we can finish up any formatting things that are on my to-do list, which includes sort of beefing up the introduction section and at least taking a first pass at the metrics within a week. You then presumably will need a little bit of time to review, and we may want another turn or two on the document internally. I don't, that's where I don't have a ton of certainty.
We're probably looking at the beginning of April then. Yes,
So when are council meetings?
council meetings are first and third Mondays of
Not
the
fun.
month.
Unless it falls on a Monday holiday and then they're on Tuesday.
So this, if we were to, I'm just thinking logistically, it's gonna take a couple weeks there. We're gonna hit spring break.
That's a good point.
It's the
That,
end of this month.
which is at the end of the month, but so we're looking at the beginning of April, which is also would be the week of a council meeting. So then we're looking at the second meeting of April for the council. So if we have it in first one, and it could get to council. Is that's a good timeline or too late of a timeline?
The,
Might be too early.
Or too early?
what's on my mind is we're actually about to get into the budget process. And so
Right.
we've got a pretty packed calendar right now. So I can't really guarantee a council date right now. It's going to be somewhere in that time frame, but
So I was just trying to get it to council sooner than later,
sure.
but if later is fine for council, then.
Probably
Is this
will
gonna
be, to
affect
be
any of the
honest.
So then I
budget, though?
guess-
Do we want them to see it before the budget so that there's,
I mean, I don't think there's anything that's super actionable right away.
This is more of a strategic document. It doesn't really have any appropriations in it.
I think what could happen is if you had it before budget would be if council wanted to say, hey, we like this, let's seed some money. I'm not saying do that, but seed some money to getting it going.
Jeremy's on the budget.
Well, that's right, I am.
It's true.
Well, am I adopted? I don't know. Oh, I was trying to get off of some of these meetings, but anyway. Okay.
I don't
am.
believe you.
So, but I'm just saying that there's always that option out there, just like when we went through it 2 years ago, we seeded some money to getting this plan done, right?
oh, yeah,
So that's just something that's out there. I would appreciate council bringing something.
There'll be some metrics on here that council will be interested in for sure. There'll be some bullet points here that council will be like, hey, let's run with this. So
well, and my other thought is it would be kind of cool if we could get this to the council before the special service contracts come out. Because there's some things in here that I see some of the other nonprofits and entities and stuff like ant farms already doing that
That's a fair point.
could go with this, and I'm looking at thinking about it from the chamber's perspective as well.
Yeah.
That it might be a benefit before those are reviewed.
Fortunately, special service contract program doesn't renew until July, so we've got some time.
Okay,
So,
good.
so what I'm hearing is it would be better to have it in front of the council earlier, because then it would hit the budget committee and grouping if something wanted to be added to the budget committee, just.
Are you looking at the calendar, Jeff?
I'm looking at it right now. I think,
You had that, I'm looking at the calendar face.
well, I'm looking at the calendar and I see a potential date. I think the first meeting in April. Let's see, I think April for sure. I don't know for sure which meeting yet. So if this body could meet maybe,
In March then.
well,
First one.
I tell you what, the second meeting in April is still before the budget process starts. So I think that's probably the sweet spot. So if we could
Yeah.
meet as this group in early April, that's
So
perfect.
be that.
Where's your
first-
calendar? You used to have a calendar.
First week of April?
First
Yeah,
week
I
of
mean, if we could
April,
all meet on the first Wednesday in April, that'd be awesome.
Wednesday the 5th.
I might have to meet you guys online because it's a work day for me, but
Yeah,
Okay.
and if you could send it out prior,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
you have it all done, and
I'm looking at you, Elliot. How does that look for you?
You referenced the last week in March being spring break week. It's my kid's spring break week too, so I'd like to avoid meeting the week of the 27th if we can, but Wednesday, the 5th works fine for me. And if we were looking to fast track it, I believe we can get that full draft in place by Wednesday, the 22nd as well. So either of those would work.
Wednesday the 5th
I
is
think Wednesday the 5th is great.
down. Meeting, but and I just told my wife, don't worry, it's only every other one. As I joined back to a court.
Oh, so. Oh, that's the Oregon. I am at a conference on the 5th, but that's the last day. So I should,
And it's local.
and it's a, yeah, so,
And I can be here to staff as well. So
sounds like we have some consensus.
So in that meeting, can we say that it won't be a long meeting? Because this is all we've got. I mean, there won't be any other topics on that.
Sure, I can postpone everything
Since it
else until the meeting.
And
after that.
and we'll see the documents beforehand.
Right.
So
that's right.
that should be pretty.
Well, and then maybe,
Otherwise,
and
we'll just have to open samples.
then maybe we won't have the May meeting because I'll be gone as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can do that too.
We'll skip a couple.
We'll have a short meeting and I'll bring samples.
Yeah, there you go.
Celebrate.
Well, that'll guarantee we have a short meeting.
All right. Sounds like we have a plan. We have 9 minutes left. Is there any other topics of discussion?
I have one that came up in a meeting today. A bunch of Cotton's Achievers are getting together about the tolling. There's a possibility now where it might be a ballot, so we're trying to push that. One of the questions that was asked of me from the other directors was, how many of our businesses or employees travel I-5 to get to here? My guess is that's probably not very many for
I
us.
think so, but there might be.
But they
some.
asked about that and I said, well, I'd asked tonight because I'm like, well, where am I, short of doing a survey or calling all the business.
Yeah.
But do any of you?
I travel
really have
the
anybody
west side of
that-
Vancouver once a week at least.
Okay.
Pick up my grain order and all that, my suppliers up there.
But they're up north, not south.
Yep.
Okay,
No, they're up in Vancouver.
okay.
I don't. I hit 205 or 205 every now and again, but I don't have to.
Was your question just about I-5 or was it about?
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff
about
travels it every day.
The tolling area,
Yeah,
down.
Because
south.
I'm gonna be
you're
impacted by the
impacted
tolls
by
on
that.
205.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, and then we're talking about everybody using other roads and how that's gonna wear down the roads and this causes cities to have to pay, that stuff.
Yep.
So, okay, so we do have.
Yeah,
awesome.
By the way, Elliot, I don't believe there's any reason for you to stick around for these last 9 minutes if you don't need to.
Enjoy your kids.
thanks,
Yeah.
Elliot.
It was only 9 minutes and my kids are in bed, so I'm indifferent, but thanks everybody for the feedback and I will see you on the 5th.
Okay,
Thanks,
sounds great.
Elliot.
Thanks,
Okay,
Elliot.
thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for bringing that up because, yeah, that's got a bigger impact, not just, yeah. Because people that live here travel on the other side, so they may not have businesses in here, but just in, people that live here.
Because it's the Westland, Lake Oswego, I think they were saying 60 to 70% of their
Sure.
businesses have people traveling.
Sure they do.
It's huge for them.
Because
My
you've got that
daughter's
whole-
gonna be going from West Lynn,
What's it
getting on the
called?
205 and going out to Uber. I
Okay.
started with a new company and
I imagine Oregon City and Gladstone.
Yeah.
The North
Kansas and
Chamber.
Wilson, yeah, they're all
Because-
really heavily into it right now,
Yeah,
so,
so-
yeah.
For some of those areas, they're not, you can't avoid it. There's no side road to get to.
Right.
You gotta cross that river.
Mhm.
That'll be interesting. Any other topics or any other? I know we kind of skipped over any new businesses that we can talk about, any new developments in a couple
Well, I'm
months.
sure you guys have all seen that the VFW building's getting refreshed. Thank you,
That's
Todd Hoffman.
Is that color on our palette?
It wouldn't have been my color choice, but the way I look at it, it's painted.
Oh, yeah.
It's brand
better than
new.
it was. Yeah, no, I was just curious.
That's sort of like my building.
Yeah,
it's painted.
actually, your building's grown on me after a while. They call it.
It's,
Colors are great.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know
I
if
think
it
your
turned out the
building's
way
okay.
we were thought.
Yeah,
That, the impact blue is like.
But it
oh yeah, Impact Jiu-Jitsu. Oh my God, that's
That
on
on the
our
color
palette too.
palette?
I would
It was
never.
on palette? 'Cause you and I talked to me.
We do have a couple of blues.
Wow,
Yeah, that's
okay.
one of them.
Well, it matches
I know,
the
I
truck,
would-
so it's.
That would have been my choice.
I know.
But it
Mine was
stands out,
on
you
the
said
palette,
it
but I
was.
don't
It
know.
would
if the guy
definitely
got the
stand
color
out.
right or not.
No, he did. I went down there and I was like, there's no way those are Sandy style colors. He said, no, they are. He showed me the cans. I was like, holy crap. they are.
Yeah. So it was like,
I figured they would have said you've been working with them, but I
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
kind of going.
No, Kelly, actually, when Kelly first saw that, he was like, we're gonna have to make him repaint that building. Like, no, we're not.
How about when is the new restaurant up here opening up?
Should be anytime in the next couple of weeks.
little sandbar.
Yeah, or at least that's the
And
last. one.
it's a barbecue, right?
Correct.
Yeah, he was waiting. I actually went in and talked to him, and had he opened when he was ready, he would have to pay for a liquor license for the year and then renew. All the liquor licenses up here renewed this month.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so that makes
And
sense.
it's like, really? His is more expensive than mine, so he must be somewhere between probably around $750,
Is that because of the liquor?
probably, yeah.
She's gonna have
Yeah.
both. What else?
Because
we
I
got
just finished
coming?
up my paperwork for today.
Todd Hoffman's also building food cart pot number 2. That should start.
Now that
Here.
plot of land looks like it's for sale.
Yeah, he's
That's why I
selling,
was
he's
gonna
selling
ask you
the
about that.
Yeah.
place in front of the club.
Oh, he is?
Yeah,
So the food cart's not going in there then?
Wait a minute, he's selling the small lot or the large?
Both of them.
I was saying, I thought, I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, for
you.
sale signs on
That's
there.
news to me. I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
I heard about that, yeah. So, I mean, they have the land use approval.
Yeah.
So now it's just, yeah, it may be.
Oh, is he selling?
Somebody else
to
maybe
put
who
on
we're all
your
doing.
kind of
Oh,
like
okay,
that's-
so it's gonna end up like the, yeah, that's the deal. So it'll still get built, it's just he won't own it, which is.
It's got a
Well,
concept.
it is on the market.
Yeah.
So.
well, but
So
in
somebody
theory, if
buy
that
it, do
land
something
sells,
else.
it could be
yeah,
something
they
else.
can, it could be
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
else, yeah.
He just says he has the plans and so forth for food carts.
That's right.
That's part of
Okay.
a selling.
And the
point.
approval.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
What else? What else? I don't can't think of anything else that's coming in right now. I do know of a couple of things.
Brewing,
And I hit brewing, yeah, and no, they're not breweries, but I can't. Because I don't know, because the moment I start talking about them, then they won't happen.
yeah, don't spill
Yeah,
the beans.
don't do
Don't
that.
jinx it.
The new Barlow Trail Vet Clinic has, I mean, it's been reviewed.
Okay.
So I don't know that he's gonna break ground anytime soon, but, I mean, like anytime the next few months, but sometime this year wouldn't surprise me.
Is he still wanting to do a Burgerville there, or is he considering selling it?
A Burgerville?
His
Yeah.
lifelong dream is he wants to
wants
make
to own
the
a Burgerville.
existing,
He could have bought the one that
What?
was here before Starbucks bought it.
Oh, that was Jack in the Box.
Oh, that was Jack and
Oh,
Box.
that's
that was
good, I'm a fast food queen.
Okay,
Wow.
Are
I spent way too much
Burgerville's
time.
privately owned, or I thought they were Burgerville.
Well, their workers are unionized.
they are?
They
For
went
that?
union, yep.
Wow.
I thought it was just certain locations.
What's that?
I thought it was only some of them.
And that might
Okay.
be, it might just be the ones, because my husband's company services them,
Yeah.
so that might be.
she's a fast food queen. I like how you gave this.
Well, that's a big deal when it
I
happens.
spend
I
a lot
remember
of
that.
time at
I
fast
like
food,
it.
I'm
I
sorry.
like it.
No, it's bad, I wish.
No, that's, hey,
But I gotta have my pot for breakfast.
there you go.
so it's-
Get your soda.
So he wants,
We
Visit
all have.
Walmart.
so he's not gonna, he doesn't want to build a vet clinic. here?
No, the new vet, that's gonna be the vet clinic. We're
Oh.
talking about his
Oh, yeah,
current
that's-
location.
Yeah, they talked.
Oh, it's
They
not
wanted
big
to put
enough
a
for,
vertical-
it's not big enough for,
Yeah, it's pretty small.
well, and drive-throughs in downtown are
Yeah.
hard
That's true.
to justify.
And then there's that shop girl consignment store number 2 that's coming in. That'll go in right across the street from that farm cafe where the bicycle store used to be.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
How about the Studebaker building?
Yeah, what are they?
Yeah, I haven't heard from him in a couple of months, which doesn't surprise me because he's got a couple of projects going on in other cities.
Is it Sean Bell part of that one too? From Rival Trail?
I don't think so. No, I think this is just.
Yeah, he's part owner in one of the breweries in
I
Florida,
thought
right?
Sean Bell told me he was part of owner in that one too. Who, Dr. Houston's husband.
No, I mean, I don't, not as far as I know. I
Maybe
mean,
he's an
maybe,
investor or something.
yeah, that could be. I don't know. But the last time I talked to him, what was holding him up was he couldn't decide whether, he still hasn't decided what he wants to put in there. And he doesn't know, he felt like if he was gonna put the tasting room in there, he wouldn't need a parking lot because people could park across the street. But now he's thinking, no, I really do need parking. there."
Yeah, 'cause
So,
that parking lot across the street is,
I mean, are they
Always
talking about the
go.
parking lot
Yeah.
behind?
I'm assuming Ace.
The pub,
Oh,
yeah, no, the public parking lot over there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the public, okay.
Yeah, the public one.
which is behind.
Mark-
I can park in everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
Because there will be.
Yesterday in the snow,
Yeah.
I had to do 3 loops around to be able to park because I had so
I
much to
had that
undo.
too.
It's not, in evenings, yes, but during the day, there's no parking.
Anyway, the reason I bring that up is because that retaining wall there on 211 and Tupper, that's gonna be one of the first things he's gonna be.
Stickman, isn't it Stickman Brewing?
I know that. It's different.
It's not Stickman,
It's not Stickman?
That's like us. Oh, no, they have multiple locations now.
Yeah,
They're-
they're
they're-
Oregon City.
Yeah,
and a few
it's
other
out of my head
places.
now, it's right there.
It's okay, it's okay, it doesn't matter.
But he has to finish that retaining wall first, and whether or not he was gonna put a parking lot back there affected how thick the retaining wall had to be. We've already done the design work. That was something that we did for him as a courtesy because we really want to see that change. And it didn't cost us that much money, but because he's decided to put parking back there, we have to change the design on that so the wall's thicker because more weight and everything. Fortunately, he is working with Kelly Grover of Urban Design. Kelly knows our code inside and out, so I'm sure that we'll come up with a good design for that. So, but that's what they're working on right now. Yeah. And he has done some work on the building. He put a new roof on it, and he also just recently he had somebody go in and sandblast out the interior. And next, if you happen to be walking by there next time, look in there and take a look. It looks a lot different.
Huh.
Yeah, like all those heavy timbers, they're all exposed, like you can really see the wood grain and everything right now. Yeah.
Cool.
It's good.
All right,
Uh,
it's
cool.
8 o'clock, so we'll adjourn till next month. Thank you for all showing up.
Thanks,
Thank you
Chris.
for being online. We'll see you in person next time, Chris, hopefully.
Next time I will be in person, I promise.
We'll just trade you out for Lori, who'll be online.
I'll be on,
There you go.
it'll be fun.
Well, thanks for putting up with my ignorance as I asked questions today.
All right,
Thanks a lot.
thank you.